Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is Wednesday, February 9th, and this is Morning Market Movers, where we take a look at hotspots in the markets and we do some live analysis for day trading. My name is Todd Rich. I am with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. Uh, a little bit to talk about this morning. We've got things moving. We've got oil down, which is rather interesting. We've got oil now down below $89 a barrel. We're going to take a look at that. And then this morning, we've got the oil inventory reports, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. So we definitely want to take a peek at what's going on in oil, and then taking a look at potential trade setup for the 10:30 inventory report. It is kind of interesting too, because we've got people calling for oil to be up near 120 if Russia invades Ukraine. Meanwhile, oil is slowly creeping lower after spiking up above $93 a barrel. So we are going to take a look at oil. We're also going to take a look at gold. Gold creeping higher, also kind of interesting, because we know we're listening and hearing about the Fed talk about doing interest rate hikes, which we know would hurt oil. But as oil creeps higher, you're seeing the same thing in the Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar chart and the oil chart almost look identical. And the interesting thing there is we don't know if it's just pre-positioning, because we've got CPI tomorrow morning, right before Brian and I go on. So we are going to get some inflation numbers. So it's interesting. We've got oil creeping lower with the concern of Russia invading Ukraine. We've got gold going higher, and we've got an inflation number tomorrow morning. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're also going to take a look at some of the equities, because we are looking at a fairly solid green open in the markets, which is a nice change of pace this year. Before I flip it over to Brian and we start jumping into it, I do need to share the disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say, or Kip for that matter, as a buy or sell recommendation. We're doing this for your education purposes. Brian's pulling
double duty, triple duty.
Triple duty. And then and hopefully not a quadruple duty right there in your hands. Hopefully Kip can hold it. All right, yeah, you could see gold creeping higher. I mean, kind of crazy. It did blast through the 1800 number. I mean, it just got hammered, and then it's just climbing its way out, similar to the Aussie dollar. So it's similar-ish charts, because the Aussie dollar is impacted a lot by the price of gold, but we do have that number tomorrow morning. So you know what, Brian? Do you want to start with oil? Yeah, let's start with. How about I'll flip it over to you. We can talk about oil, and then let's get into the gold, the Aussie dollar, the CPI, the inflation, the Bostic remarks, which were rather interesting this morning.
Yeah, and if you guys hear hiccups, it would be Kip hiccuping, not me. He's trying to get him ready here.
What is Brian doing?
I know. I just fed him. Oh, now he's pulling the headphones. I just fed him, so I was like, all right, maybe he'll be good. And then we try to get a burp. And now he's hiccuping. So I'm failing on all parts today. So tomorrow will be the interesting thing. It's like having a newborn all over again. Anyway, so yeah, oil at 10:30 today, I think is going to be a pretty interesting. Again, you mentioned Ukraine in the situation, and again, a lot of the contagion there is basically the sanctions more than anything else. Last week we heard Iran saying, "Hey, you can lift our sanctions. We'll give you the oil," and it really just shows that there's a lack of not lack of supply, but lack of safe supply, if that makes sense. I've mentioned it before in the past. The whole canceling the pipeline from Canada, like it or not, that was a safe avenue of oil. This has always been why the Middle East is so contentious, because if there's war, it breaks out and we can't get oil, they're a major hotspot. But we also have it here. We're just not using it. And again, Russia does a lot of the supplying of the European Union. So European countries, obviously, with oil and natural gas, yeah, other people can get it to them, but it's going to jack the prices even more. So, this is where, policy implications really change a lot of things. And crude oil right now, it is pulling back right now. There is expected to be, the forecast right now is that there's going to be a surplus this week, and that could be the pre-positioning that you mentioned, Todd. The API report that came in yesterday actually came in with a bit of a downdraw. The forecast was just a slight increase, and it came in with a downdraw of minus 2 million barrels. So, the numbers are there. Again, it was expected to be high, and it missed. Obviously, the API report and the EIA are totally different stories. And again, at this point, who knows? I mean, the Ukraine thing is, it's like, okay, if anything, we've seen manipulation in the oil markets before. Is this an entire ploy just to manipulate the oil markets? In reality, it could be. Think if you were going to invade a country, would you wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks to let everybody get ready for you to invade a country? Kind of defeats the whole purpose. As again, I'm not a military strategist. I didn't go to the Naval Academy or Army, West Point or anything like that. But if you're going to attack somebody, is it common sense to let them prepare for it for a long time? Not really. But if you are making tons and tons and tons of money with oil, which you sell, which is jacked up for this one, is that something that they could do? Yeah, that's in their wheelhouse as far as being smart. So we'll see. I think 10:30 today is going to be important. I'll switch over to the chart for it real quick. You can see that it's kind of pulling back a little bit. Right, yesterday we talked about that Harry Potter in here. Yesterday morning we talked about it, and again, what did it do? It ended up hitting it. It went all the way down, grabbed our profit target, and then ended up reversing right off of it. And you can see, as far as oil goes, we ended up bouncing off of it a second time, pushing through. So, it's rising back up again. It really hasn't left. We're more or less where we were yesterday. We were sitting right here at this 9 o'clock candle. So we're kind of the same price. But again, that Harry Potter, that continuation trade worked out great yesterday. Ended up going right off the profit. And then again, actually triggering a second time. So I think watching that 89 level will be important. We don't know where it's going to go in the next 2.5 hours. But with it rising up right now, again, U.S. session, we tend to see a little bit more of a kind of a boom in price. If it pulls back up, that could be a potential area to short when the news comes out again. Remember, everybody kind of is expecting this, this number here. If it's, you see this number, like, oh, it's going to be a down draw. Okay, yeah, maybe. And then when you look at, this number and you say, well, wait a second, it's supposed to be a big surplus. They're expecting a bit more of a surplus, so it's given the ability to kind of play some trades. So we'll see. Like I said, I think 89.95 is good. I also like the fact that this basing area, this profit target, it got hit here a few times, hit here and hit here. So there's technically our 3 hits, and this last attempt in at 8 o'clock this morning pushed it literally to the brink. So kind of the same thing that we did here yesterday. You can do the same thing right over here.
Yep.
Right. And again, it's basically more or less the same type of trade. It's the profit target is in a safe location, or relatively safe. Again, the buyers are going to come a little bit lower than that. And again, we had an alert sitting there. We can put an alert on it right now to say, hey, listen, I want to know when, that crosses that level. Some harder with only one hand. Oil drop.
Just don't drop Kip.
He's not going anywhere. He's like a little wiggle worm today. But I think this is a decent price. It would be a break of 88.38. They'd be talking about it. Let's take this out. There we go. Something along those lines. So I think either of those two levels would be decent swords, 89.95. If we do have a break above that, the next level after this, there's a couple small levels in here. And again, I would say probably this yellow level would be the next one we'd be looking for. If the number is big today and we start rallying, again, we'd be looking for pullbacks to go long and get up into this 91.56. But I have to agree, I don't know about 120 oil, but I think I'm more in the camp of the 96 to like maybe 104. Like I said,
and that's assuming we get a war.
That's assuming no war. Yeah, that's assuming no more. I don't think there's going to be war at this point. You can move your ships around, and it would be catastrophic for everybody at this point. The fear of the deterrent of the United States is no longer what it was. So,
All right. Yeah. So, all right, let's jump over and take a peek at gold.
Sure. Yeah, gold is pulling back a bit. Right? Gold is pulling back. We mentioned 1833. You can see yesterday all it did was kind of chop sideways. We said that was a good thing. We were looking for a little bit more of a pop. We're hoping that it's going to be up at that 1833 for tomorrow for news. Again, remember that's the CPI number. It is not the preferred, right? Of course, the core PCE is really the main thing that they're looking for, but CPI is important, and the Fed's mandate is actually based off of that 2% for CPI. So, you know, I'm going to mention Bostic's comments here in a second, but I'm okay with this. I think they kind of step in. Bostic has the weirdest comments. He doesn't really actually have a lot of power, but he does like to see his headlines everywhere. He's not one of the ones that's considered when he talks it moves, but for some reason he keeps he's gone back and forth. Last year
he's been bombastic, and this time he kind of tempered himself.
Well, he wanted to go fast, and then in September, then he wanted to go slow again and said, okay, maybe not all right now. And then he was like, and then, everybody's like, yeah, we're raising interest rates. We're at 40-year highs. And he's like, you know what? I'm on board for 25. Yeah, I can do 25. It was like an auction. And now, his comments right now, he says we're on the cups of seeing inflation ease. Now, depending on how you read that, you're like, wait, is it transitory? It's not actually what he's saying. But he's saying right now, he's hopeful we will start to see inflation decline. Okay, not go backwards, but hopefully decline. Watching month-over-month changes. Yeah, sure, we can watch it for a long time. He said we may be and then he's projecting a 3% PCE inflation for the year. Again, the mandate is 2%, so we're at a 40-year high. He's basically saying that, 40-year high is totally fine. That's not the right way to do it, but that's what he's saying, guys. And then he's leaning towards needing a fourth. So instead of just doing the 3, the 50, 25, 25, he's like, no, you know what? We'll just drag it out even longer. We'll do 25 and 25 and 25 and 25. And this is how we got to 40-year highs, is by this passivity. And this is pretty interesting too. He's like thinking only about 25 basic hikes right now, though options on the table. God forbid you just you say something and you mean it.
Keeping all the doors open. 25. We'll leave it open for
and this is unfortunately
3. But he did say that he wants to see how the economy, not the stock market, the economy reacts as they start doing them. So he didn't say anything inflammatory, but he hedged everything he said. Just left basically. Everything is on the table.
Yeah, I was trying to see. Like, I don't. Hold on. Let me just make sure here. I don't want to. That's Bowman. I'm trying to see if I could find a one where he's actually listed as speaking. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to
actually don't. Yeah, let's not worry about that, because we do have gold creeping higher and the Aussie dollar going higher going into tomorrow's CPI. So what can we be looking at? Because this would be a setup for tomorrow morning before we go live.
Yeah, it's the same thing. We marked it off yesterday. This is a tested level. We just hit it right now, pulling up into the 71.78. You're seeing the base. You're seeing 2 touches there, and it had a very, very strong movement out of it right now. So we're up there. I don't know if this is where it's going to stop. I mean, the dollar could potentially turn around from here, but this is not a forecast. I'm looking for this. This would be the kind of where the zone is, and this is what we're looking for tomorrow. So we've hit it a little bit early. That happens sometimes. Like I said, 25. I don't know that the market wants 25. I think the market, could potentially be, disappointed in that one. But with all the, with all the push right now, you are going to see profit taking coming in. Yeah, I mean, looking where the dollar index is, you're seeing the dollar index is starting to it's finding an area of buyers, which is going to directly relate across to this. Now, remember, any type of interest rate rise is going to crush gold, which is also going to bring this down. So gold has gone up a little bit. That's helping the Aussie right now, as well as a little bit more of a weaker dollar. But with tomorrow is the day that is really kind of everybody's been focusing on. So seeing this, it's kind of playing out how it has the last few weeks. But if you are looking for a position, we're kind of in a position right now where, again, we've seen buyers in the past. The last time, this is what it's looked like. Here's the base. There's kind of a front run. Got kind of front run again. And then it did touch, and then it got hammered to the downside. That was a huge, powerful move off it. So we know that we have some buyers. And, maybe we actually bring this up just a little bit into that range right there. Again, still touches, but you can see it barely touched off that base. Just clean it up a little bit, brings us up just a little bit higher. And then, again, we can shrink that over to there. And your 1 of 3 is sitting right there, which is fine because that's where the last Harry Potter trade happened. So
and this is all going into, we're hitting this now. We've got the number tomorrow morning. And remember, tomorrow morning it's at 8:30 Eastern. I apologize. 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. be looking for that number, and because if CPI is above what people were at, I mean, we start seeing inflation even greater than what's expected, and any surprise numbers there, that could force the Fed's hand in having to do more sooner,
Yeah, it's just
potentially.
both of them are expected to drop tomorrow, but that's even if they come in and just hold, like last time they thought they were going to drop and they held. Um, yeah, it's yeah. I'd say ow, Kip.
All right.
Just
All right. Yeah. All right. Before we let you go, let's just take a quick peek at the indices. Because we are looking. I don't know if there's anything interesting. We are looking at a pretty solid open.
yeah, I mean, VIX is every time I'm
Nasdaq
not talking to
actually
talk.
leading us higher. But
Whoa.
this is not a common day so far this year to see everything up close to a 1% before
Yeah,
the
we
open.
talked yesterday about this one little zone here that we had the Harry Potter off of. You can see it came up and then it started the base right below it, basically showing us that hey, listen, they're building up strength a punch higher. And again, telltale sign if we broke through, we knew we had a racetrack. So right now we're pretty much clear up until 45.84. Again, for zones, for those of you that are students or listening to me speak for a while, when you have a zone and price runs up to it and then it kind of keeps hitting it and starts forming a sideways base, typically a telltale sign it's going to break, it's going to go through, but it gives you the ability to get out ahead of time before taking a full stop loss on it. It's just one of those things. Typically, when you have a zone, you want it to touch and go. When you start the base, what it is they're accumulating orders. They need orders to punch through areas of sellers. I would say at this point, this is probably set up, and I'd like to see a little bit better of a base. I'd almost like to see a little bit of a pullback and then an ability to go long. And my profit target today would be 45.85. Looking at this candle right here, we can delete this off. Let me delete this so you guys can see it a little bit better. Right, there's the old level. You can see this is where we're at right now. Price is right here, right? There's nothing. There's no seller sitting in there until we get all the way back up today. So overall, if ES wants to continue with a bullish move, it's got a pretty decent run to the top side. I mean, we're talking about another 29.5 points that we can go before we have any type of confirmed buyers, or I'm sorry, confirmed sellers stepping in.
Yeah.
NQ, again, we're at the 61.8 right now. You can see also, again, this is one of those ones. It's like, okay, are people going to take this blindly? They could just off that number. If you look to the left, there's absolutely zero price action right now that's going to tell us to sell until we get all the way back up and we got to pass through this 78.6. So, we got to go all the way up to 15,112. If it rolls here, again, this is one of those things that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, oh my God, 618, we got to sell it. But there's nothing right there in the past. There is no, there's no crystal ball. There's no nothing letting us know that they're going to slow down right now. And again, YM, again, drove through. It broke through that the number at 35,500. We mentioned that yesterday that's where we'd be looking to hit on the top side. That's the last time we had any sellers. And in fact, actually, we broke above the 35,588. So, right now, what we're doing with price action here is it's kind of the same thing. A little bit of a hiccup here, but look at this. We have a nice little run up. We got approximately 125 points before we hit an area of sellers. There is a few up there. It looks like those sellers are kind of coming in right around 35,743, but you can see the same thing. A pretty decent run to the top, about 150 points to the top side before true sellers are coming in. And then Russell, kind of the same thing. We came through this peak up the top, we hit it, we started the base in it again. Again, it's gonna break. And then again, looking where the price action is here, here's where current price is right now. There's no pullbacks. So they're all kind of the same type of setup right now, where they're sitting in a kind of in a large bodied or long range candle with no pullbacks to the top side. Again, things like this typically are good runners. And again, with the VIX down right now, whoops, this one's all crazy. Yeah, with the VIX down the way that it is right now, and there's really nothing news wise today. There's really not a whole lot to really shoot this to the downside. So
all right, and then
on a fundamental race.
So we'll see what a Wednesday holds for us. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us customerservice@nadex.com. Any questions for Brian, you can reach him at support@keeptradingsimple.com. I've dropped my email in there as well. If you've got any feedback, questions, concerns, please feel free to email any of those emails. And just a real quick recap. Oil been creeping lower this morning. Remember, we've got that that 10:30 a.m. inventory report, so there might be some action in oil later this morning. We've got gold and creeping higher, the Aussie dollar going with it. All of
Alton.
this. all of this, yeah, it's funny. All of this going into tomorrow's CPI, so be ready for that CPI tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. before we go live. You might see some action in. You could be looking at gold and the Aussie dollar is one place. You could be looking at the equities as well. And this morning, we've got equities all looking to open in the green. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. So glad to have you here. If you like what we're doing, please feel free to give us a like. We would appreciate that. Brian and I will catch you again tomorrow morning. Good luck in the markets.